So with the PTR for Diablo 4 2.0 being playable, we have gotten some very interesting information on Season 6 and more specifically the Season 6 specific mechanics, and these seem to be very interesting with a returning creature from Diablo 3. And also keep in mind, Season 6 is going to release alongside the Vessel of Hatred expansion, so there's going to be a ridiculous amount of content outside of this new seasonal mechanic. And Season 6 seems to be called Season of Hatred, and a small description is hatred seeps from the jungles of Nahantu as the mysterious Realmwalkers spread Mephisto's influence across Sanctuary. Now it is also interesting to note that in this window, they still had a splash image from Season 5, so we didn't actually get any imagery alongside this information. Now we got 3 bits of information with this. So first off, encounter creatures twisted by the ichor of Mephisto's hatred, and then we got slay Realmwalkers to access hell portals, and then delve into hell portals for powerful buffs. And there's a lot of information inside of that. So the first part, killing creatures twisted by the ichor of Mephisto's hatred, is pretty interesting because the symbol for this is Mephisto's wolf face. So I'm also very interested on what this is going to entail and what this is actually going to tie into, because we do know with Season 6 we're getting an actual Season 6 power mechanic, which we haven't gotten with Season 4 or Season 5. And going off this information, there may actually be multiple parts to that. The first obviously being these twisted creatures, and then we get to something that's very interesting, especially if you played Diablo 3, slay Realmwalkers to access hell portals. Now in Diablo 3 you did fight some of these. These are like these big hulking creatures with a portal on their head. So you have to defeat these creatures, then they drop to the ground and you can enter their portal. And specifically with Season 6, they're going to have portals to hell on their heads. So you find these Realmwalkers, they're most likely going to be bosses or some very tanky enemy. You defeat them, they drop down, then you can enter these hell portals for powerful buffs. And I'm presuming that these hell portals and the powerful buffs are going to be the big Season 6 power mechanic. So like if you go back to Season 2, we had the vampire powers where you defeated any vampires, they could drop the blood that you would use to upgrade your powers and unlock new powers, and then you would slot them in and get all of that new power and all of those new effects. That's what I'm thinking this is. You find these Realmwalkers, go into these portals, and then you get these buffs, and that's going to be like the new power mechanic. I'm not sure how the twisted creatures plays into this, but maybe those are like some type of new bosses. That could actually be quite interesting, that Mephisto's hatred actually turns some of these enemies into bosses, and there's a handful of new bosses that maybe also drop some of the new power items or some new currency. Now, this isn't the only information we have for Season 6. If you saw my last video, I went over a bunch of leaked consumables, and 5 of these leaked consumables are season specific because they have the little leaf symbol that shows that it is specifically for a season, and all of these season specific consumables are quite interesting. Now, first off, all of them give you an experience increase of 15%, and these experience increases on consumables are usually multiplicative with other effects, so 15% is pretty massive. And then all of these consumables also have the line that says kills grant reputation for Zakarum remnants. So we know there's going to be a reputation track with Season 6, which I would expect to be in every new season going forward. The reputation tracks have been pretty heavily liked. But what's even more interesting is Zakarum remnants. The Zakarum is basically like a holy church in Sanctuary, and it seems we're going to be fighting with some remnants of this church. And it makes even more sense when you add this in with the new information we just went over, because we're going to be facing twisted creatures that are empowered by Mephisto and Mephisto's hatred. So it would make sense that basically the opposite side of Mephisto, which is the Zakarum, would be specifically fighting against all of this hatred seeping up, and we're going to be helping them do this. Now, the main element of these seasonal elixirs are giving you the ability to get more material drops or even get new material drops from content that it never dropped from before. 4. So we have the Seething Opal of socketables. Enemies have a chance to drop socketables on death. So this would be both gems and runes or rune words. If you buy the Vessel of Hatred for the runes and rune words, because those are expansion specific. Then we have the Seething Opal of Murmuring Opals. Enemies have a chance to drop opals on death. If you're really into gambling, you'll be able to get a lot more opals. Then what's probably the craziest one, Seething Opal of Masterworking. Enemies have a chance to drop Masterworking materials on death. And I'm very interested to see how this works because we have the 3 different tiers of Masterworking materials. So this could either be just random at what material you get, or it could be tied to the difficulty you're on with the difficulty system being reworked. And then we have the Seething Opal of Crafting. So enemies have a chance to drop crafting materials on death. If you need, say, some of the rare crafting materials, this could be good. And then finally, we have the Seething Opal of Chaos, which just gives a chance to drop the reward from any other of these potions. So if you're just looking for anything, you could pop one of these. Early on in leveling, this may be the best one to pop, just so you fill up and get all the different types of resources. And then if you're, say, filled up on a ton of resources, you could just pop this to make sure you're still getting those additional drops. So the next big release for Diablo 4 is going to be absolutely wild. We're going to be getting so much new content, and I'm very interested to learn more information on Season 6 because it seems pretty interesting alongside all of the expansion content. And I also just really like the idea of killing these big creatures that have a portal on their head, that then you enter that portal after defeating them, and you go in that portal to get whatever these powerful buffs end up being. So I do really like how that's actually framed, and I like the Realmwalkers as an enemy. But that's pretty much all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.